been such a long journey. So I didn't meet a black person until I was 9 years of age. I didn't know a black person until I was 16 years of age. Didn't know I was Ethiopian when I was 18 years of age. My mother, so every single time somebody stops me and says, "Lemn, you don't speak Amharic?" No, but whenever somebody sees me, says my name, I wake up a little bit more. Such a profound way. My mother came to England in the late 60s. She was pregnant, because women, they get pregnant. I don't know what's going on there, but that's what happened apparently. So she approached a social worker, and she said to the social worker, "I'd like my child fostered for a short period of time while I study." This is a woman who had the resources to travel to England in 1967 and to study. And the social worker gave me to foster parents and said to them, "Treat this as an adoption, he's yours forever. His name is Norman." Norman. So my foster parents, who believed that God had told them to take this child, not themselves, but God had instructed them to save this child from poor Africa, because there are no adults in Africa, there are just children saying, "Save me." No adults at all. I refuse not to laugh in my story. And they took me. They'd saved the African child by doing so. I must tell you this, that adoption is the greatest thing a human being can do, in my opinion. And it's been part of our communities for a long, long time. Moses was adopted. Jesus had 2 dads. Muhammad was fostered by his grandparents. We're part of the story. So anyway, my foster parents, who were my mum and dad to me, my grandfather was Duncan Munro from Scotland, where I spent half of my life. And I thought my name was Norman. I was told that my mother was an evil woman who refused to sign the adoption papers. And I was brought up with them. And they had 3 children of their own. And by the time I was 12, they believed that somehow the devil was working inside of me, because I was taking biscuits from the tin without saying please and thank you, because I was staying out late with my friends, because I was the oldest child in the family and they hadn't yet had an adolescent. They put me into care, into children's homes. They left me there and said they'd never speak to me again, and never did, and I lost everybody: my mum, my dad, my sisters, my brothers, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I had no more birthdays from that day on. Nobody calling me if I was ill from a family. Nobody to argue with. Nobody to fall out with. I was locked in a series of children's homes over 5 years. At 17 and a half, I was incarcerated in a virtual prison for children with no charges and no legal reason. And I knew it then, at the time that it was happening to me, that I'd been stolen and that I'd been ripped off, that it was a scam, that the only people I knew, that I didn't know anybody that knew me for longer than a year. Because I'd moved to different children's homes with different children in them, with different staff members, and none of them put the whole story together, except for me. At 18 years of age, after incarceration for 6 months, they got rid of me. The social services had nothing to do with me then. and gave me my birth certificate, because legally they had to give it to an adult and there was no adult to give it to. And my birth certificate had my name on it, Lemn Sissay. Lemn Sissay. And I didn't know what it meant. And they gave me a letter from that woman whose picture you saw there, and it was of her pleading for... The social worker gave me a letter, and he said, somebody did love you. And it said, I want Lem back. I want him to be with his own people in his own country. I don't want him to face discrimination. That was said by a 21-year-old woman 4 months after I was born, who was Ethiopian. The point is that that's all I had. I then set off in my life with two aims when I left the children's homes. One was to find my family and the other was to write poetry, because I always wrote poetry because it was a flag in the mountainside. It was proof that I existed at some point in time, because all family is a group of people proving that each other exists over a lifetime. All family is a set of disputed memories between one group of people over a lifetime. And I had nobody to dispute the memory of me, and I only realised that because I didn't have it. Most people realise how important the dispute is when they have a child themselves that is disputing with them, and it's kind of beautiful, if a little irritating. And they think then of their own relationship and their own disputes with their parents, and how somehow those things that actually set us apart also brings us together. It is all relative. And I knew then that I had nobody relative to me, and therefore did I actually exist. So it was in my mission in life to find my family from that one letter at 18 years of age, with people around me who thought that Ethiopia was some the people was, spears and loincloths and, just, not that there's anything wrong with spears and loincloths, but and it took me most of my adult life to find my family all over the world. My mum works for the UN. She married the Deputy Minister for Finance under the Emperor Haile Selassie. My father, Ashinafi Shifaro, some of you will know, my father was a pilot for Ethiopian Airlines, and I used my notoriety as a poet to take film crews back to Ethiopia, to make documentaries that proved what I was saying was true about my past, because I had nobody to prove it. And I found them all over the world. And I've now got a fully dysfunctional family just like everybody else. Dysfunction is right at the heart of the function of family. A functioning family should have an element of dysfunction about it. Family is its own PR company. It will tell everybody else that it's perfect inside, knowing that it's not. And then you have children and they argue with the PR company. They realise that the CEO is not as perfect as they thought. And then they become CEOs themselves and set up the PR company. This is what we are. This is the story of who we are. Let's not talk about Uncle Kevin. And there's nothing wrong with PR, it's just the truth. Anyway, I'm a poet by trade, and like Bakila, I did go barefoot. At 18 years of age, I went barefoot. It was my way of rebelling without hurting anybody else. So this poem is called, We Are an Incredible People. Not only have I found my family, but I've found an entire country that has made me part of its family. And I'm honoured. I'm truly honoured. I'm truly honoured There is not an airport in the world that I go through that some customs official, security guard, passing lawyer, doctor says, Lemn! I'm honoured every single time it happens. And I'm lucky and I'm blessed. And I appreciate every single moment of it. And I'd like to thank Ethiopia Alfred also for being here, because you've been so incredibly kind to me. So, you know, for all of the things that I've done, I've become Chancellor of the University, I have an MBE, I am a doctor twice, etc., etc. I know that there are more important things in life. I know that it's more important to be kind to yourself and then to others. I know what matters. I have tattoos up my arms from when I was in the care system, in the children's homes, all the way up there. Not tattoos that you get, tattoos that you do with ink and a pen. I have the marks that know what's important. And that's how I measure a man. And a woman, actually, to be honest. But anyway, and it's important that. This poem is called Invisible Kisses. It's a love poem. Thank you. And you. If there was ever one whom when you are sleeping, who would wipe your tears when in dreams you were weeping, who would offer you time when others demand, and whose love lay more infinite than grains of sand. If there was ever one to whom you could cry, who would gather each tear and blow it dry, who would offer help on the mountains of time, and who would stop to let each sunset soothe your shades of mind. If there was ever one to whom, when you run, who will push back the clouds so that you're bathed in sun, who would open arms if you would fall, who would show you everything if you lost it all. If there was ever one whom when you achieve was there before the dream, and even then believed, who would clear the air when it's full of loss, count love before cost. If there was ever one whom, when you are cold, will summon warm air for your heart to hold, who would make peace in pouring pain and make laughter fall in falling rain. If there was ever one who can offer you this and more, who in keyless rooms can see open doors, who in open doors can see open fields, and in open fields see harvests yield, then see only my face in the reflection of these tides, through the clear water, beyond the river's side. All I can send is love, and all that this is, a poem and a necklace of invisible kisses.
Yeah.